This is Smarter San Diego TV.
You said you've been talking to scientists, people who have solutions. What needs to be done? $8+ billion in profits in 3 months, but they won't admit that it's happening. Should women be allowed to become Navy SEALs?
The short answer is no.
You lived there
Oh
for
my
4.5 years and you didn't know?
So the government now, very, very invested in the mortgage industry. What's happening in China that no one knows about, the news isn't covering? Tell us what's going on.
I'm in the naughty corner today.
Like you said, you're not getting rich in the military. You got to come up with a way to build some wealth. Real estate, best way to do that. I mean, can it still be fixed? And how serious is it really? And if so, what do we need to do?
And now, here's your host, Derek Evans.
Welcome to Smarter San Diego TV. This is the place, of course, where you get smarter. And it's all commercial free. My co-host, as usual, the lovely Rebecca Peters. How you doing, Beck?
Good day, sir. Hello, everyone.
Is that a new haircut you're showing off or something there?
It's a new haircut, yes. You didn't notice last week,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm just going to point it
No, I
out
noticed.
today.
I totally noticed.
But you didn't draw any attention to it.
So today we're talking about how there's new laws.
New year, new hair, new laws.
New laws in the state of California. Some of these are pretty interesting. Which ones did you like?
Yes, law enforcement agencies must obtain a search warrant before looking at private emails, text messages, and GPS data stored in smartphones, laptops, and the cloud.
Which is pretty interesting. So if a police officer pulls you over, he can't say, give me your phone or anything like that. Not legally. Now, if you give it to him, then that's one thing. But they
on
can't
you.
force you by law to give it to them without getting a search warrant through a judge. So that is kind of a big deal.
Yep.
I don't know how many times that happens or it's applicable, but pretty interesting stuff. Here's one I thought that was pretty interesting under driving. Electrically motorized boards can be ridden wherever bicycles can be ridden now, including bicycle lanes, pathways, and roadways. This also includes hoverboards.
Yes.
So for your hoverboard, you can ride in the bicycle lane.
Yeah. I bet you can't do skateboards, though, can you?
I don't think so.
No, it's like the same thing, just one goes this way and the other goes that way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird,
know.
but it is what it is. There's some other interesting ones
Yeah,
though, too.
and still on the driving topic, we have new alerts. So the Amber Alert has been quite successful in finding kidnapped children. But now the California Highway Patrol is allowed to use new yellow alerts on electronic freeway signs to seek the public's help in finding motorists in hit-and-run accidents. Also, there's a blue alert to find those who have violated police officers or law enforcement in general. There's also silver alerts to find missing persons who are 65 years or older and who may have developmentally disabled or cognitively impaired disorders.
Yeah, I think it's great that they're allowing the Highway Patrol the opportunity to use the signs to tell people what's going on. It's always nice to know. I mean, when I see those signs like, hey, child abducted, this is the license plate, it's a blue Toyota Prius. I'm like, there's 9,000 blue Toyota Priuses. I'm looking around trying to find it.
Yeah.
Guns. Under guns, there's a couple of interesting ones I wanted to mention. So police officers or family members can actually get a restraining order that bars a person who's deemed dangerous from possessing a gun for 21 days. So if one of your family members, even if they're dangerous to themselves, potentially suicidal, or if you think that they're dangerous to someone else, you can get a restraining order and keep them from having access to guns for 3 weeks. Now, whether they'll abide by that law or not, we don't know.
Right.
But you can do it. Also, there's a ban now on concealed weapons on college campuses. Period. Regardless of whether it's legal to carry it elsewhere, if you have a concealed carry permit, you can't take it on college campuses any longer.
So just have to rely on our police officers and
To get there in time.
students.
Yeah.
Okay, well then.
Which other ones did you like?
The other one that I liked was the vaccination law. Which
Oh,
is
people are going to
obviously
hate this.
going to be very controversial. The vaccination law eliminates the option for parents to waive immunization rules for their children based on personal beliefs.
What this is saying is that if you're one of the parents who's like, no, I don't want to vaccinate my children, I'm against vaccinations, it's my personal belief system, I do not want to put those chemicals in my children, the state is now saying you can no longer say no. If your kids are going to go to a public school that is funded by the state, you now have to get them immunized.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to freak out about that.
Yes.
So we'll see what
I know
happens
people who don't
when
vaccinate.
when the extension expires and kind of falls off the cliff, and then people have to do it. We'll see what really happens at that point in time. The minimum wage increased.
Yes.
No one even really said anything about that. I didn't even hear about this, but it went from $9 to $10 an hour. I think that's a pretty fair deal. $10 an hour.
Yeah, it's not
Come
bad.
on, for minimum wage.
Pretty decent.
Yeah.
San Diego's an expensive place to live, so I mean.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Also, this one could be controversial as well amongst people who are religious, but doctors are now allowed to prescribe lethal doses of drugs to patients who are terminally ill. So not to anyone, not just because someone's suicidal and they're saying, okay, not the Kevorkian stuff.
So basically human euthanasia.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're terminally ill, I mean, think about it, how much pain people are in.
Yes, because we talk about our animals like that. Oh, we don't want our animals to suffer. We give them euthanasia and, you know, quote unquote, put them out of their misery. Now we're doing it to ourselves.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone who's in that situation, but I imagine for some people it's probably going to be at least a decent thing. Here's something that's interesting along the lines of schools, and we'll end on this one because we got Steve Bick coming up.
Okay.
So I can't wait to talk to Steve. But schools now must provide places for students to breastfeed or pump breast milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
So there's a breastfeeding room if you need to. So if you're a teenage mother and you want to breastfeed or pump breast milk because you don't bring your baby to school, then you've got a room now for that.
I think that's totally fair.
It is fair.
Yeah.
It is fair. It's totally fair. It was just interesting that needed to be made into a law. It's pretty interesting. All right. I think it's time to start the show. What do you think? There are more new laws, by the way. So if you go to our Facebook page, you can find it there. If you go to our website, you can find the link there. There are more. We couldn't cover them all, but we got Steve Bick coming up. It's time to make you smarter. I got to get my jacket on. It's time to start the show.
Our next guest is our favorite guest for discussing global markets. Please welcome back to the show, hedge fund manager, Steve Bick.
Steve, he's here. All right. Yes. Love when Steve Bick is here. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time. A lot going on right now.
Yes, tremendous amount.
Yeah. So the Dow's been down quite a bit. I think 1,000 plus points recently.
Right.
China has shut their market down a couple of times.
Yep.
They had 7% down days.
Yep.
I just took a trip to Spain. I have questions about currency and the euro and stuff just didn't quite make sense.
Ooh, me too.
Where do we begin? Is China, is the jig up in China?
I would think it is. I mean, I think it's been up for a while, but they've managed to cover it up for a long time. And now it just appears that there's a loss of confidence and, yeah, it's dragging everyone down.
Yeah, for a very long time they've been able to fool people because they have like empty towns there.
Cities, yeah.
Cities that are empty that they built up,
yeah.
and there's no one there.
Correct.
And so somehow they kept this momentum going and people were still interested in
Right.
investing in China and still things going on. It seems like the jig is up. What would that mean if it really were true? Jig's up with China, people get it, they've been lying, the economy's not that good.
Right.
It's built on a house of cards. Would that tank the US stock market or would that actually give us strength?
No, it would tank us.
It would tank us?
Yeah, no doubt. Here's the problem. In the past, the second largest economy was always Japan. And of course, China's gone past them years ago. So they're a major player in not only in the global economy, but also in the currency market now. And if they tank, the renminbi is going to get a lot weaker, which makes the dollar a lot stronger. And that kills off all the other emerging markets as well, because they're reliant on they've got to pay back their loans in the dollar, they've got to pay back obligations in dollars, oil's traded in dollars. So while we're getting the benefit, say, for example, of a lower crude oil price, they see some of that benefit, but a lot of it's lost because they're buying it in dollars and their currencies have got a lot weaker. So it really hurts every emerging market around the globe, which will drag everybody down. And for the simple reason is the emerging markets now make up more than 60% of the global economy.
Vic, you have a question for Steve?
Yeah, I was going to ask just for clarification. So you saying that basically the US dollar is becoming too strong for other countries?
If it did, I think he's
If
saying
it did,
would be
I
bad.
think it is. It has got a lot stronger, and that is causing some of these problems. It's funny because the Chinese renminbi's actually been weakening, and a lot of people have been saying that China's doing it on purpose. But in actual fact, when you look at the Chinese current account balance, they're using a lot of that to actually try and strengthen the yuan. because they're now part of the pool of international currencies, and they don't want to see their currency just get washed away.
Yeah, of course not.
So they're trying to protect it to some degree, which is sort of lost on most of the population.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned oil earlier.
Yes.
Oil breaking record lows. That's
Yeah.
been happening. Is that a sign of the weakness in the
I would
global
think
economy?
so. Yeah, there's two things though with oil. There's a lot of oversupply because of all the fracking that's going on in the US that created a huge amount of supply, and then you got people like Iraq coming back into the oil chain, plus Iran now is probably possibly going to be able to start producing oil. So you've got this massive glut of supply, and in the past the Saudis would just take their foot off the accelerator and say, right, we're going to not produce so much. But this time they've said, to heck with that, we're going to keep producing, because last time we did that, all of you guys stole our market share from us. So they're just keeping producing, and in other words, putting other people out of business. So their thought was take out the fracking people maybe with a low oil price, sorry. And that's not happening because the Americans are very resilient and resourceful, and a lot of this fracking technology is now becoming cheaper and cheaper. So I think it's sort of it seems like a race to the bottom, doesn't it? But I think the thing there are obviously a lot of benefits to weak crude prices. You know, we get cheap at the tank. If you go and fill your car up, it costs you a lot less. And the other thing in commodities is there's an old saying that comes out of Japan that weak prices end weak prices and high prices end high prices. Meaning that when the price gets to a ridiculous level, people will, and already you saw the car sales coming out of December that a lot of people are buying big trucks and things like that because the price of oil's down.
Right.
And so more oil will get used, and eventually the supply-demand equation will change.
Right. So there are some benefits to the low oil price, but it is sort of an indicator of weakness.
I think so, yes.
For the most part. The Saudis typically had the cheapest cost to produce a barrel of oil.
Right.
The fracking technology has sort of changed that game. They're resetting the marketplace, if you will.
Yeah.
Should we buy oil right here? I mean, is this a place where it makes sense to maybe start investing, throwing a little into oil?
That's a very tough question, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to time a market.
Catch the falling knife.
Yeah, exactly. And right now, if you look at all the charts in the oil market, it's just pointed lower. Now, I always thought that it would get to around $30 a barrel, and that's around where we are. So to see it, the problem with selling it from here is that you get an ever-shrinking amount of money you can make, right? So it's getting to a point where maybe, could go to $20, $25 a barrel. Where there was a time about 20 years ago, I remember it got down to wasn't it $15 or $20 a barrel? I can see maybe that touching it briefly and then coming back, but it's probably not a bad idea to look at something like that, particularly in most investments where you make most of your money is buying when there's blood on the streets, and essentially the oil market has been killed. Now going and looking at specific oil stocks outside of, let's say, an Exxon Mobil or one of those major players is getting really risky, because you've seen a lot of this high-risk debt that's being lumped onto these fracking people, and they can't support those payments. So those companies would be very risky to get invested in. But maybe some of the bigger players like Exxon Mobil might be an idea to start at least dipping your toe in.
Like the USO,
yeah.
something like that.
Well, though the ETFs is a strange idea, because if you think of an ETF, and the idea is it tracks along with the value of those underlying assets. If the stock market really rolls over and dies, and to me it's looking like it could, I'm not saying it will, I'm just saying that it looks like it's broken, right? And we've had the longest bull market in history with no corrections, and we've touched on a correction now. I think that you need at least another 20% further to go before we've actually got ourselves back into line just on an earnings ratio basis. So in that type of scenario, if the market rolls over and dies, an ETF, as I think we spoke about in the last time I was on the show, can sometimes get sold off as a stock.
True.
And the underlying asset values there aren't reflected correctly in the ETF model. So buying an ETF might actually hurt you more than buying just some individual stocks.
Like Exxon or
Conoco. Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, interesting. So I don't know anyone who knows more about currency than you do.
Okay.
So I recently went to Spain. So I had to do some exchanging, dollars for euros.
Yeah.
I actually bought a couple things in pounds when we were in London. I couldn't believe they're still using that. But I was just shocked. It was like, pounds, huh? Haven't heard that forever.
Yes.
And so we went there. Here's what I don't understand. The euro has been stronger than the dollar for a while. The dollar's caught up a little bit, but the euro is still stronger than the dollar.
Well,
somehow.
you're talking about
Exchange.
just one for one. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, the parity in terms of buying power, though, shouldn't have been the same.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out. So
Right.
I have to exchange my dollar. So
Yeah.
it takes me $1.10 to get €1.
Correct.
But for, I bought the jacket I wore last week, I bought a suit for $66, 60 euro.
So that's what I'm talking about. It's called the purchasing power of parity in economic terms. And what that means is it's like a stock. It's like saying, well, Ford's $10 a share and let's say GM's $30 a share, so I should buy Ford because Ford's cheaper. Well, no, you're not looking at the whole picture, which would mean you need to look at the market cap of each of those, right? So maybe there's 2 billion shares outstanding at Ford and only 1 billion outstanding at GM. So in actual fact, you're not right?
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is the same thing holds with currencies. Just because the dollar appears weaker in terms of 1-to-1, it's not, because what you can buy with 1.1 euros is far greater than what you could buy for $1.
Yep. And there it is. That was the explanation.
It is.
Now, if you want a real bargain, go to South Africa, because the rand has just been obliterated.
Really?
When I left South Africa, it was 2 rand to a dollar, and now it's almost 16 rand to a dollar.
Steve Bick, thank you so much for your time today, man. Really appreciate you
thanks for having
sharing your
me.
wisdom. Great stuff from Steve Bick. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guest is the founder of militarymutual.org. Please welcome back to the show, Derek Barksdale, and his special guest, licensed counselor, SHEILA Henry.
All right. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. LT.
Hey,
Back in the house.
I'm glad to be here.
It's a good-looking vest, my friend.
Hey, thank you. I love the tie.
Looking sharp. Now, you wanted to bring SHEILA on today. Licensed counselor, focusing on, for the most part, PTSD and people who have PTSD. Tell us why.
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say that amongst all of the phenomenal guests that I've had the privilege of bringing on the show and having a good relationship with, to really do some outstanding work, that SHEILA, without question, is the one who's impacted my life, and not only my life, my family's life, in a way that, you know, no one else ever has. And with that being said, that's not to take away from the work that we're doing with the other guests, such as James or Donna, who've come on board the show, but really just to show as a personal testimony how PTSD and other cognitive disorders that affect our veterans and their families every day really impact people, and it impacts people so much that it impacted my life. So with that being said, I wanted to bring on SHEILA to be able to speak to some of the problems that people may be faced with every day in their lives, and really how her, combined with the other people that Military Mutual and Warrior Home are coming together to try to help people in a whole, and not just buy them a house or to fix their home, or like James does with providing employment opportunities, but SHEILA is going to be the glue to tie it all together with ensuring that their lives are something that they can maintain and continue on and live a good, fruitful life for the future. So I'm really excited about today.
That's great stuff, and I don't know if everyone remembers, but Mr. Barksdale, 21-year veteran, United States Navy lieutenant. So you've seen a lot. I mean, in that time frame, there was a lot that went on in the military, and you were a part of all that. SHEILA, thank you so much for being here today. This is a hot topic, of course, because we have so many people in the military here in San Diego, and it's become something that's not hush-hush anymore. People are finally starting to talk about it.
Right, it's out in the open.
Yeah, which is a good thing, right?
I know.
So is this something that is just for people in the military that get PTSD? Is this something that is more widespread than that? Tell us what you know.
Actually, it's more widespread than that. What PTSD is when somebody is actually trapped in a situation where they can't escape, they can't flee, they can't fight, and so they're frozen, and they're in terror that their life or their integrity, their body is in danger. And when this happens, it is so terrifying that sometimes some people, not everybody exposed to these situations, but some people actually have this memory frozen in a different way in their brain. So that they can be triggered later by noise, smell, sound, a picture. However, they don't remember it the way you and I might remember a special memory. You know, if I was to ask you what you had for dinner last night, you could just remember it, but you're not at dinner.
Right.
You would remember it. But somebody who has PTSD is back in that situation. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
There was a veteran I was talking to, and he said, I went into this restaurant, and when I went in this restaurant, I ordered my dinner, and all of a sudden there was a loud crash. A busboy had dropped some dishes. I dove under the table. I was terrified. And when I came to, I was so embarrassed, I just left the restaurant.
Interesting.
Yeah, that veteran didn't just remember an incident, he was actually there.
Yeah. So it's not just a memory.
No,
then,
it's
is
a
what you're
special
saying.
type of memory, which is very different.
And so
and
he just sort of reacts,
He,
subconscious.
he reacts before he can think about it, because we just have to react quickly when our life is in danger.
This is something that happens to a lot of people.
Yes.
In fact, it's a normal reaction to like an unhealthy situation, right?
Yes, that's right.
So it's a healthy reaction to an unhealthy situation.
Well, I don't know that it's healthy quite,
Okay.
but it's
Normal.
it's a normal reaction. Let's say somebody was raped. They're in terror for their life. A child who sees domestic violence, he sees his father beating his mother. He's so young, he can't help his mother. Somebody who's a victim of domestic violence. Somebody who just sees some violence. Or maybe a soldier who's killed another soldier and he's learned you don't kill another human being. Or a soldier who sees his best buddy blown up. These are just instances when people can get PTSD.
And this happens a lot in war. I mean, that's
Yes.
what it is. The things you're listing are the things that take place.
Right.
So when someone has experienced that and they come back here and everything's supposedly fine, but then they have an incident where they realize, okay, things aren't back to
Right.
normal yet, what should they do? What's the first thing that they should start to do to help themselves out of that trap?
Okay, hopefully they will go in for some counseling. When they go in for counseling, we can work with them to help them heal. But actually there's more than just being back in the situations. They may get nightmares, they don't react normally to people, they feel isolated and alone, and they're in so much pain that they sometimes self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. And then with veterans, a lot of them have committed suicide.
That continues to be an epidemic.
Yes.
That is taking place right now that should be talked about a lot more.
Yes. And that's why if somebody can get into counseling, that can help a lot.
Can everyone benefit from doing something like that, going to counseling?
Yes. There is a reluctance on the part of some veterans to get into counseling, and because PTSD is so traumatic, it is frozen in the body as well as the mind. So talk therapy just may not be as effective as working with somebody through psychology or medicine and energy medicine.
Interesting. LT, can you speak to that real quick for veterans who maybe are reluctant to get counseling, what some of those reasons are and what allowed you to be brave enough to do so?
Sure. Well, being diagnosed with PTSD myself while on active duty, I spoke about it before, and it was one of those things where you feel as if you're not being a man in a way by saying that you have something wrong with you. And in the military, they've done so much more over the recent years to make sure that people are treated well and that nothing's taken lightly. But I remember specific terms that when people would go in and say that they had some issues going on, they'd say, oh, he's playing the crazy card or something along those lines. But now there's a lot more sensitivity to it, and SHEILA has helped with different things like tapping, EMDR, which are very good methods that really help out. That a lot of the old ways of doing business, which is exposure therapy, are not the best ways for everyone to have things taken care of. So I could speak to it directly because she's helped in that particular situation.
Okay, fantastic. And I think that's what we should really do, is encourage people.
Sure.
You know, if you're experiencing these symptoms, then reach out and get some help, because there is a better way. There is light at the end of the tunnel. You can get to the other side of this thing, and just like all the other battles that you've had to fight, it may not be easy, but you can't do it alone.
The thing about the EFT, emotional freedom techniques, or tapping, is that it lowers the cortisol or stress levels in the body. And when these stress levels are lowered, people can begin to get help. And with these techniques, you don't have to feel the pain of just talking like you do with exposure therapy. We neutralize the pain. I tell people you don't have to feel the pain. And that's why I'm so passionate about this kind of tapping, because it does help people and they are able to heal.
And that's huge.
And they live a normal life again.
Fantastic.
Go after their goals.
That is great stuff. I really appreciate you taking the time to come share it with us today, Sheila, and all the great work you're doing in the community. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, Mr. Barksdale, as always. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And Sheila.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you both for being here. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Is our main squeeze in Santee. We have Daniel Buksa in the house with his special guest from REIG Renovations, Brian Daly.
Welcome to the show, guys. What's
Thank you very
up?
much.
How you doing?
Doing well.
Brian, it's been a while since I've had you on the radio show.
I know.
First time on TV.
I love the digs. I love the get up here. The orange shag, the colors. It's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. I designed it myself. Nikki helped too. Mr. Buksa.
Life is treating us extremely well.
Right?
He's
Happy to be on the
he's
show
the happiest
again.
guy in the world. No
Yeah.
matter when you ask him,
The nicest guy in real estate for a reason. That's his nickname. I don't know if you know that.
nicest guy in real estate.
Nicest guy in San
Hey,
Diego
I'll
real
take
estate.
it. That's I'm not complaining.
So you wanted to bring Brian on today.
Absolutely.
Tell us why.
Thank you.
Well, Brian's someone I'm very proud to say that I partner with. It's a company that does business with integrity and people that you can trust. They do amazing renovations. Also very proud of what they do in the community. They specifically do a lot for the veteran community and giving back, and as well as helping people in tough times. So wanted to be able to bring Brian and give him the opportunity to tell San Diego what they're doing. And thank you for being on the show, Brian.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. You guys had a lot of coverage over Operation Renovation.
Yeah.
Now that was something when I was working at the UT, Rebecca. When I was working at the UT, we actually covered that.
Yeah.
It was a hot story that you guys are doing. I would like for people to know what you've done, because Daniel alluded to your work in the community and your work with veterans.
Yeah.
Tell us about Operation Renovation.
So, well, it all started as soon as we got started with the business in 2011. We decided, hey, immediately we're going to start giving back. My business partner is former Marine and very big military community, so we just knew we had to give back to the military. So we got involved with Wounded Warrior Homes. And they're still our charitable partner. So then we had this suggestion box in our office, and one of our employees said, "Hey, we should renovate a home for a veteran." And we're like, "Let's do it. Let's run with it." So it was a great opportunity, but man, it was a lot of work. We put on this contest and got about 70 applicants to get in, and we finally chose one last year and renovated their home. Over in Rancho San Diego, and it was like you said, it was an awesome family, great story, and the process was a lot of work, but a lot of rewarding work, and we ended up putting over $100,000 renovation into their home.
Wow.
This family actually
100,000.
Yeah,
that's real
Someone
money
ring
right
the
there.
register button.
So this family actually bought this home as a flip. Imagine that. They bought it as a flip in 2012 or 13, and it turns out that there was a big foundation issue that was whether covered up or just not investigated properly, we don't really know, but we had to dig down like 15 feet to get under this huge footing. And anyway, we had so much help. We had all our vendors, a lot of them donated their time and energy, and we ended up putting this house together for them. And they had a son that was handicapped, and so we renovated their master bathroom so they could roll in the wheelchair, and it was great. It was an awesome family, and we're really hoping we can do it again. It was understandably a big drain on our finances. We didn't raise any money for it. This is other than the people that donated their time. This all came out of our pockets. So our goal is to keep doing it, but we need help.
Yes. So today you're going to talk about the launch of a new website,
correct,
which is designed to help people understand sort of what their options are when they go to sell their home. Tell us about that.
So, and Daniel can speak a little bit further on some of the other options, but this is something we've been doing for a while. We're an investment company. We buy and sell real estate, but there's a segment of the market of homeowners that we offer a service to buy their house direct. And so we've been operating this under our name, REIG, but we felt like that didn't speak to the sellers well enough to the actual value that was there for them. So we're launching a new brand called Sell Your Home Direct, and it's just extremely straightforward. For the segment of the market that we feel like we offer a big benefit to, it's basically our way to get our name out there to say, hey, we're here and we're better than everybody else, and here's what we can do for you.
Okay, so that's one of the options,
yes,
right? Is you can sell your home directly to an investor.
Correct. Yes.
And that for a lot of people who need to make a ton of repairs and don't have the money, that could be very appealing. Or an estate sale or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of different scenarios. Very small segment of the market for sure, and that's one thing that we're huge on. We have a lot of people come to us that just want to know what we can offer them for their house. But when we're not a good fit for them, we point them in a direction of somebody like Daniel, who really is the best option for them. Whether we could have bought the house or not, we just want to make sure they're in the right place for what they need. And so, in addition to just being a distressed property, sometimes people just need to we're working with a seller right now. She has all of her stuff for some reason locked up, and she owes money to this person, and if she doesn't give the money to that person, she's going to lose $50,000 worth of her belongings. She needs to sell her house to get the money, and so we're helping her through that process.
Wow, so that's a unique situation.
I know, right? It needs to happen in like 5 days.
Got the key to my storage unit. Dang it!
It's some weird stories come up. You get a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of different reasons why someone might need your service. It's just nice to know that it's there.
Yeah.
So you can go to the website on the screen if you or someone needs to sell your home directly. You don't have time or you don't have the ability to get your home ready for sale necessarily, then you can just go to the website on the screen and find out more information there. Daniel, as far as the other couple of options.
So this is one of the big reasons I like to partner with Brian is they really do this with integrity, and they're looking for these clients' best interests, and sometimes it's the best play to actually sell the home right away, because sometimes these people are in situations where they need to sell the home quickly. But we're also giving people other options, whether it's renovate the home and try and sell it for top dollar, or just do a quick cleanup and sell the house as is. But I think when we're giving clients options based on their situation, and we're not just pushing our agenda, and we're truly doing what's best for these people. And I think that trust is why Brian has been so successful over the years, is they're truly out there doing business the right way. And that's why I'm proud to do business with them. Yeah, there you go, buddy.
It's great stuff. Well, I mean, it's true. These are facts,
right?
Right? So, and you mentioned kind of the second option, which would be, renovate the home and then sell it in a traditional fashion. In some cases, though, someone might be able to still sell their home without renovating it.
Right.
And they would also go through you for something like that.
Absolutely. So we always like to be able to give people options, and sometimes doing a kitchen remodel or fixing up a bathroom, doing some landscaping, put a little bit of money into the project, and then gain another $50,000 in equity by selling the house, because a renovated home, as we know, is always going to sell for top dollar.
Totally.
The risks with those type of things, though, obviously is, it takes longer to do the project. A lot of times people don't have the finances to be able to do the renovations. So that's why we like to give people options. And based off of their situation, a lot of them are, people are all in different situations where it makes sense to sell quickly sometimes. Sometimes we want to renovate it and sell it for top dollar. Or sometimes it makes sense just to do a quick cleanup and put it on the MLS and sell it as is.
Yeah. So, Brian, I have a question for you because I'm sure you've seen some interesting stories have come up over the years. For people who try to renovate their own homes, do they end up becoming your clients? In other words, even the Warrior home, it sounded like, or it wasn't the Warrior home, it was through Operation Renovation.
Yeah.
Even that home, it sounded like someone bought it as a flip, but then they couldn't complete it. Is that a lot of times where you guys come in, people try to go buy a house to flip?
Yeah, it's really easy to get over your head when you don't know what you're doing in renovating your house. And if you're going to do this, just 2 weeks ago, we had somebody who was actually bought a house to flip, and they had owned the house since June of last year, and they leveraged this thing so much, and it was a full gut remodel, but they only had done the demo up to this point. So, they got in over the head. They didn't know how to keep going, but they spent all their money on something that should have only cost about 10% of the total rehab cost. So, if you don't know what you're doing, it's very easy to get in over your head.
So they basically vandalized the property themselves.
Yes, brought the value down, and then
spent money vandalizing the property. So stuff like that happens, and that's why it's great to know that you're a resource out there. Go to the website on the screen. These guys are buying houses as is. So even if you're in that situation, you've spent all your remodel money demolishing the property, that's what they're there for. Thank you guys so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. And stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guest is none other than tax attorney badass Jeffrey B. Kahn.
Here he is, Jeff Kahn. What's up, man?
Hey, Derek. Nice to see you again.
Yes, my friend. And I've been listening to your radio show as I normally do. Great stuff that you've been giving people on the radio show. You can check out the podcast, of course, contactslaw.com. Today, we're going to talk about some of the tax breaks that have been revived, if you will,
right.
Brought back from the ashes.
Exactly.
And this is good stuff. This is
is.
applicable to a lot of people. The first one I want to talk about today is the deduction of state sales tax. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, actually, that one is a huge deduction, not so much for people who live in California, but there are 9 states which, don't have an income tax. And a lot of the states are small, New Hampshire, Tennessee, South Dakota, let me see if I can do them all, Wyoming, Nevada, Alaska. How many was that so far?
I think that was 5.
That was 5. So missing a couple others, but there are 2 big ones in that group, Texas and Florida. Now Texas, they're a Republican state, so you know who they're always voting for every presidential election. But Florida could swing, could go Democrat, could go Republican. When this provision was first enacted, you know who the president was?
Who?
Bush.
Interesting.
So basically, the Republicans said, hey, Florida voters, we're going to do special favor for you guys because you don't have income taxes. Therefore, you don't enjoy a state income tax deduction like all the other states do. We're going to put this provision in that you'll be able to deduct your sales taxes. So that's huge. This is like a big politically motivated tax deduction, but it expired in 2014. And under this Tax Extenders Act that Congress passed just before last Christmas, they revived this for 2015 and extended it to 2016.
Which is huge because everything you buy that has sales tax associated with it, which is pretty much everything except for food, let's say, or a couple other things,
right.
You get to take those as deductions in the states where it's applicable.
Correct. And the bottom line is you get to choose which deduction is higher. So let's say like you live in California, we pay a lot in state income tax. Probably your state income tax deduction will be higher than if you totaled up sales taxes. But maybe if you lived in another state where the state income tax rate was low, perhaps your sales tax will actually be higher and you could take that as a deduction.
Or maybe it just so happens you bought a couple cars that year or something like that.
That's right.
You and the wife both got new cars. Mm-hmm. Now you've got a really high sales tax number that you could use potentially against your state
That's
income
correct.
tax.
But you don't get both. It's one or the other. Income tax or sales tax, not both.
Correct. There's so many to get. We're only going to get to the top 5 today, but there's like 12 or 13 of these things, which we can find on the Kahn Tax Law blog radio show blog from January 8th, if you want to look them all up. The second one is the tax-free discharge of home mortgage debt, which has been a big one.
Yeah, that is a big one. And, you know, that came on, I think it was around 2009, and Congress periodically, they renewed it.
Yep.
Let it go, and unfortunately they let it expire in 2014. Well, under this act, they brought it back to life in 2015 and 2016. So if you have up to $2 million of debt on your principal residence and it now gets discharged, written off by the bank, you are not required to pick that up as income. You essentially get to exclude that cancellation of indebtedness as income. Now, it only applies to principal residences. So you have one principal residence, it will apply to that. But that second home, that vacation home, if the same unfortunate thing happens where, you know, this debt gets written off, you have to pick that up as income.
Yeah, or investment properties as well.
Right.
Anything other than the home that you live in.
Correct.
Okay. Another one on here was the tax deduction for private mortgage insurance.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't even know this existed.
That's right, that's right. You know, when I was going to school and first learning tax, and this is going way back, I guess I'm dating myself now, going back to the 80s, okay? and you know, you're learning all about tax, and they tell you, yeah, mortgage interest is deductible, but, you know, mortgage insurance is not, okay? And now Congress, you know, they've changed it.
Right.
And they said, you know, we're going to give people this benefit. And it's kind of fair, too, because, you know, nowadays, especially with depending upon credit standards and stuff like that, and how much you put down on the property, if you have to pay extra for this, kind of makes sense that it's part of the cost of borrowing. And if you're going to allow deduction for mortgage interest, you might as well allow deduction
what's the
for this
difference?
too. Exactly.
Yeah, this is part of the same equation.
Exactly.
This is an enormous deduction for people because private mortgage insurance, as we discussed on the show before, many times, is a deal killer for so many people. I mean, $400, $500, $600, $700 a month sometimes people have to pay in private mortgage insurance.
That's right.
Because they're getting a low money down loan, a high loan to value, and if their credit isn't perfect, then you pay the maximum premium. And it's an enormous amount of money. Now that they can finally deduct it, that at least ease the pain a little bit.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
it doesn't eliminate it all, but it'll ease the pain
right.
a little bit. So that's a really, really good one. Another one on here was tax-free donations from your IRA.
Mm-hmm. And that's a huge one too, because think about it. You have a lot of money sitting in your IRA, and you want to do good for a charity. So let's say like you have $100,000, and you want to make a $100,000 charitable contribution. Well, if you pull out $100,000, put it in your account, so now you can write that check to the charity, well, you've made a taxable distribution to yourself. So now taxes will need to be paid out of that $100,000, which means you don't have $100,000 left over to the charity.
Right.
Maybe it's $80,000. So in that case there, you would have a $100,000 taxable distribution that you're going to pick up as income and an $80,000 charitable contribution deduction. So you don't get a wash.
Right.
You know, essentially, IRS is getting a piece of the pie for you wanting to be charitable.
Yeah, what's up with that, IRS?
Okay. So under the law now, what you can do is you bypass IRS, because now you can make that charitable contribution directly from your IRA to the charity. So now the charity is going to get, for example, my example, the full $100,000, and the IRS gets zero.
Nice.
I love that.
That never happens.
That is now.
Never, but until now.
Yeah.
So that's great, especially for people who do have a lot of money in their IRA, who clearly aren't going to need it all, and they want to do charitable things, to be able to make those
Right.
donations directly from the IRA. That would make them feel a lot more charitable, I imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
when you know the charity's going to get
Definitely.
100, you're not going to have to send a check to Uncle Sam.
That's right.
Another one on here, and the last one we'll cover, the rest you can find on contactslaw.com on the blog under the January 8th radio show, that you can buy computers tax-free with the 529 plan.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting one.
Yeah, that's a provision that came about. It was like around 2009, and then it was out of the law, and Congress put it back in. And what this is with 529 plans, basically you could put away money for your child's college education, and that the child then could pull that money out tax-free, and the money grows tax-free. So ultimately it's a great deal. It's a great way to shelter money from tax, let it grow, and it's now available for something good, a college education. But when the monies are pulled out, it has to be used for qualified expenses. So, tuition, books. Well, now a computer and even internet access is included as a qualified expenditure from there. So now you have a child who's a beneficiary of a 529 plan. They're in college. They need to get a new laptop, or the college requires that you need to have a laptop. They can pull the money out of that 529 plan, use it to pay for that laptop or that computer, whatever it is, and it's not taxable.
Wow, that's awesome. That's huge, because computers,
that's really cool.
Computers are only good for like a year or two, especially if you're in college. I mean, the abuse that computers are going to go through in that situation, walking to class, throwing it around, all that stuff, that's a big one. So here's something that I know we all want to know that I didn't tell Jeff we're going to talk about today, but there's a huge Powerball drawing. I've got 20 tickets, Jeff.
$40.
Makes me what? One in 12 million or something chance to win. So.
But there's still a chance.
There's a chance. Jeff, I just want you to know, if you get a phone call from me Thursday morning, early, you know I wouldn't normally call you this early in the morning on a Thursday. Please pick up the phone. You're the person I'm calling if I win the Powerball.
I will.
Now, no matter how much, even if I just get 5 of the numbers and don't get the Powerball or whatever, win $6 million, it'd be. If any of that happens, I'm calling you first.
Okay.
That's
a very good deal. You should be doing that.
Right?
Yeah.
And you should be that guy. I think we should make you that guy. Anyone out there wins the Powerball or wins any portion of the lottery, you got to call an attorney first. Who better to call than a tax attorney, especially a tax attorney badass from Smarter San Diego, Jeffrey B. Kahn. Can you think of anyone better, Rebecca?
Nope.
It's just that simple.
That's it. That's
Jeff,
it.
great stuff. Thank you for your time.
All right.
I hope I get the opportunity to call you Thursday morning. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Our next guest is a big community advocate, and today he plans to share some serious knowledge with us. Please welcome back to the show real estate expert, Voltaire Lepe.
All right, there he is. Voltaire, what's up, man?
Hey, not much.
Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Sharing some more knowledge with us today.
Of course.
You've got your free offer. You always have really cool free offers where people can acquire information from you for free if they're trying to learn about stuff within real estate. Today, I think this is really crucial because we have sort of an interesting market going on right now. A lot of buyers aren't quite sure what they're getting into. A lot of buyers aren't quite sure how to successfully get their offer accepted in a market where a good property's got a lot of offers on it and very competitive offers. So today, your 7 secrets how to beat out other buyers and get your offer accepted without paying the highest price.
Exactly.
We're going to get to maybe 2 or 3 of them, and then we'll give the free offer where everyone can get the rest of them.
Perfect.
So what's one of those secrets, Voltaire? Let us know.
Well, I guess we could start just by kind of explaining what's going on with the market. And,
let's do that.
You know, when I first gave out this offer, which was in 2013 on your radio show for the first time, you know, not much has changed. You know, back then it was a crazy market, and you know, these secrets basically I've learned over 13 years of selling real estate. You know, selling hundreds of homes, and little by little you start to kind of, you know, develop. Well, a few years ago I started developing this system just from my past experience, and really the way it started was one time in 2011 I had about 30 listings at that time of inventory, and there's, you know, it was hot back then, and a lot of these were short sales and things like that. So this one property that was really, really hot, a lot of people wanted it. I received a ton of offers, like I want to say 30, 40 offers that were emailed to me. And all of a sudden this guy walks into the office out of nowhere, and you know, my secretary says, "Hey, we're you expecting so-and-so?" And I said no. And I walked out, and he gave me a manila envelope and he said, here's an offer on the property that you have listed. And I was like, how come you just didn't email it to me? And he said, well, you know, I just wanted to kind of show you that we're very serious and we want this property. And long story short, we ended up choosing his offer. And it's funny because a week later, they ended up canceling the deal. And I started thinking to myself, we had 30, 40 offers. Why did we choose this guy's offer? And I started reviewing the offer, and I, you know, picked up all these other offers that I had, that we had printed out, and I started reviewing them, and I was thinking, why did we choose his? It wasn't the highest, it wasn't the best. He ended up canceling, right? Obviously, it wasn't the best. And I said, well, it's because he came in person. He walked in. So at that point in time, in 2011 is when I started kind of developing the system, how to get your offer accepted without paying the most amount of money. And long story short, secret number one is deliver your offer in person. So obviously, you know, a typical buyer, they're working with a real estate agent, and the real estate agent on a hot property, man, I mean, you have to go out there and ask your real estate agent, like, hey, can you deliver the offer in person? That way your chances just skyrocket. So that's number one.
I think in any situation in which you're trying to woo the other party, it's best to do it in person. Of course. Right? Because that's what you're doing when you're buying a house, whether you're a buyer or whether you're the buyer's agent, you're trying to woo someone else to get them to do what you'd like for them to do.
Yeah.
And so doing that in person, I think, makes sense regardless of what the circumstances. And I think in real estate, things have gotten so easy for people, you know, DocuSign, eDocs, this day, everything's email and text. We forget the power of doing things in person, and there's a perfect example of it. So you do that.
Yeah,
that's part of your system.
That's part of my system, yeah. And
it works.
Yeah, and especially if there's multiple offers, you know, just know that that seller or that seller's agent, they're getting a bunch of emails that they're not checking. They're getting a bunch of phone calls that they don't want to return, text messages, etc. But as soon as you pop in person, you know, they're like, what are you doing here? And then you have that conversation, and, you know, really you find out the seller's motivation. And at that point, you could really, you know, tweak the offer and tailor it to where it's very attractive to the seller because you know their motivation. So that was the first secret.
First of 7 secrets. We're going to give 3 of them out today in this segment. You can get the rest of them for free by going to the website on the screen right now and get all 7 secrets there. What's the next one, Voltaire, you're going to give us?
So the next one is your deposit. What I've noticed throughout the years from receiving a bunch of offers is most deposits, they're, you know, not up to scale. You know, the buyers or the buyer's agents are kind of scared of losing the deposit. So at that point, they put like a minimal deposit. So as an example, on a $500,000 home, if you have a $5,000 deposit or less, you know, and there's multiple offers, kind of just start walking away already, right? What you want to do is you want to put a very impressive deposit, as much as you can, or as much as you can stomach, really. And the reason why is because the chances of you losing your deposit, if you know the contract or your agent knows the contract very well, is very, very minimum, right? Out of more than 200 homes that I've sold, I've never lost a deposit. So at the end of the day, if you increase your deposit and you hand deliver it, you know, those 2 combined, they'll say, hey, this guy's very serious. He hand delivered it, and the deposit's higher than everyone else's, even some of the cash buyers. So even if you're a first-time buyer, you can compete against the cash buyers, against the conventional buyers that are putting huge down payments by just increasing your deposit and making it clear that you're very serious.
So that's like a psychological trick then, I think, right?
Right.
Because the other side knows that their chance of keeping your deposit is also nil, right? But it shows that you're serious because you have to actually write a check. That money has to go somewhere other than in your bank account. So that's sort of a commitment, even though you can get it back. So what do you say to, you know, some of the people out there whose agents, and I've had agents tell me in the past when I bought properties, just $1,500, that's all you need for the deposit. Yeah, $1,500.
$1,500, 1%, or, you know, whatever, $3,000. You know, basically I explained to them, you know, when you start combining, it has a compound effect. So let's say, for example, you hand deliver the offer, you put a high deposit, all of a sudden, you know, you're bettering your chances. You know, going into the third secret is handwrite a love letter. Handwrite a love letter to the seller, telling them who you are. So it's a love letter to the seller. So all it is, it's an introduction of who you are. If you have family, who they are. Why do you want to live in their neighborhood? Why you like their home, you know, so much? And really, what it does, it gives you a connection with the seller that you wouldn't have had any other way.
So you don't tell them that you're in love with them. You just write a letter to explain to them who you are and what your family's about and why you want to buy the property.
Right, and at the
You're
end
in
of
love
the
with
day,
the house.
yeah, exactly. And you know, sellers want to deal with people that they like. They want to feel like they're doing a service, or just like when you donate stuff. You know, you feel good about yourself. So if they could see a photo of you and your family, and you know, a letter that goes with that, explain who they are, they're like, you know what, I want to help these people. I want to give them a shot, even though they have 9 other offers that maybe are at higher price. And the funny part is, you know, when I first gave this out, and you know, a few years ago on your radio show back then, like the very next day I got an offer from someone, and it was hand delivered to my office, and the guy said, hey, a real estate agent, he said, hey, I heard you on the radio yesterday, and here's just like you like it, you know, a hand delivered offer, a love letter, and you know, we went with them. And you know, at the end of the day, sellers are willing to sacrifice money if they feel good about what they're doing.
It's totally true in any commerce. Yeah. I mean, think about it. If you feel comfortable, you're going to be more apt to do whatever it is, no matter what it is. Whether if it's a restaurant that costs more, but you feel comfortable there, or you feel like they have the stuff that you want or the things that you like, you're going to go there and you'll pay that premium. Same thing with this. You feel comfortable. Hey, this is a big deal. I mean, real estate transaction is a big deal. There's a lot of trust involved. There's a lot of contracts involved. You want to feel comfortable. So what I see, because I can see all 7 secrets here, what I see is a way to build that trust through showing, not talking about it, but through showing people that we're serious. We're very, very serious about this situation. We're in it for the long haul. If you can do that, that sort of changes the psychology of the situation on the other side. Is that the idea behind the 7 secrets?
Yeah, that's the exact idea. And just to give you another example, I recently had a listing in North Park. Okay, I just basically got it this past weekend, $500,000 for a fixer-upper, right? Ooh. We had over 14 offers, most of them all cash, over asking price. And what ended up happening was the person that ended up getting their offer accepted, I was thinking about it this morning, they basically followed most of these secrets that I'm telling you, and that's why they got their offer accepted, even though there were some other ones that, you know, might have been more appealing as far as dollar amount, et cetera. So, I mean, these things work.
They work, and you can get them 100% free. Go to the website on the screen, get the rest of the secrets. You can always call my man Voltaire. He will shoot you straight about real estate. One of the smartest guys I know. Voltaire, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else. Commercial. Hey, great show, guys. That's a wrap. Jade, what's your schedule look like? Do you mind breaking down the set?
Not today, Derek. I'd love to, but there's waves out there. I gotta go. Angela? Nikki?
Yeah, I gotta go beat traffic. And I think Nikki's making something up there.
Look at this. We did this. We did all of this.